What's up everybody, it's Chris and I'm back with another video. It's been a long time since I made a video, especially one like this, face to face with the camera, and I'm very rusty. And this is like my 15th, no, it's not for real, it's like my 4th or 5th attempt, and I'm tired. I have notes here, but I think I'm just going to wing this thing, and hopefully it comes out alright. So, I woke up inspired today. I wanted to make a video talking about why bad things happen. And first of all, I want to say that I don't believe that anything is inherently bad. I also don't think that anything is really good, because you gotta have, if you have one, you gotta have the other. You have to have the yin to the yang, right? So I just think that all things are for our benefit if you know or understand how life works, or just basically, let's say, the purpose of things. So instead of bad, I'll say unpleasant. All right. So simply put, unpleasant things happen to us to give us the opportunity to better ourselves as individuals, as people, as spirits. All right. And I'll give you an example. I use use myself. When I was 8 years old, I don't really want to. This is a hard thing to talk about. So basically, I didn't grow up well. My mother was abusive up until 8. I think, parents do things that are abusive and they don't really know it's abusive. And I experienced that. But when I was 8 years old, I experienced intentional abuse. There's no other way you can say this wasn't intentional. Basically, one day my mother came to me and told me that I could always talk to her. She said, if you ever need to talk to me about something, even if it's me, if it's something I did and you need to talk about it, let me know. You can always talk to me. And I'm like, okay, cool. That's great advice to tell a child, especially an 8-year-old child, because they'll grow up talking and expressing themselves instead of just bottling things up and exploding. So a few days go by and she does something. She said, I can't remember what she did or what she said to me exactly, but whatever it was, it hurt my feelings. So that night, I'll go into a room. I used to sit on the floor by the door to her room, and I told her that I wanted to talk to her. She was like, "What do you want to talk about?" And I said, and to preface this, if it's kids listening, you got kids around, there's a little profanity in this, so I don't usually cuss on my channel at all, but I don't know, I'm going to clean it up, but still, they might know what I'm talking about. So anyway, she says, what do you want to talk about? I said, well, what you said to me earlier, you said, so whatever, I don't remember what it was. That really hurt my feelings. She pauses and looks at me, then laughs and calls me a little bee. You get what I'm saying? A little female dog. And just laughs at me. So the whole thing about coming to talk to me was just BS. I don't know what made her say that. It almost seemed like it was a setup just so I could do that, so she can call me that. And so, I got up and I went in my room, and of course I cried. And it was at that point, she was no longer my mother. I never since then have considered her my mother. She's just a person I got to deal with. And I hate it. So, that's that. And when I was 8 years old, it was a whole bunch of stuff, man. That was a really transitional year for me. And I'm saying all this stuff to really illustrate the catalyst, right? So that happens. I experienced her break a metal pole to a broom, like a metal broomstick, on my sister's face that year. She put my sister out, then proceeded to turn around and tell me she broke my broom. What, her face broke the broom when you hit her with it? Anyway, She does that, and that was also the year I began to stay home alone. So I've really been raising myself since I was 8 years old. After that, which kind of worked out for me, I only saw her, twice a week, because when I would get home from school, she'd be going to work. So like when I get home from school, she would already have left for work, and she would get home at like 1 o'clock in the morning or 12 or whatever. So I was home alone. All right, and my father was. It's important for me to talk about my father real quick because I want you to. I need to clarify that they were not the same type of people. Now my father never badmouthed my mother, but he would always tell me that if I wanted to or needed to, I could come stay with him, and he would always tell me, I know it's hard, but never disrespect her. Just get your grades. You can get your grades, do good in school, so that you go to college and you won't have to deal with that anymore. And that's what I did. Now, she used to tell me, despite that, he never showed this to me. She used to tell me that he didn't really love me. He would never come see me. Well, turns out she was actually threatening him. I caught her one day. She doesn't know. I even brought this up. She denied it. But I heard her. I came home from school. I could hear her screaming from outside, and I didn't go in yet. Turns out she was on the phone with my father. He was supposed to come get me that day. And I heard her threaten him, tell him, if you come, I'm going to call the police. So when I walked in, she hung up the phone and she said, see, we had a little brief intermission. My car was full. I had the wrong SD card in there, and it got full. So that gave me a little break to gather my bearings. So basically, I get in there, she tells me he's not coming. And see, he don't really care, blah, 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 all that stuff. So anyway, it wasn't until his funeral. He died when I was 15 on my mother's birthday, actually. So he died when I was 15 on November 15th, which is her birthday. And it wasn't until then that I actually found out that he really did care. And he had a really big funeral. There was a lot of people there. And, all I heard from the people is how much he always talked about his sons. And, they would say stuff that only a person who was proud of their child would know about me. So, then I realized, wow, she lied that whole time, and now there's nothing I could do about it. It's not like I can start hanging out with him. He's dead now. So, anyway, let me open my notes back up. So, anyway, fast forward, I did exactly what he said. When I turned 18, couldn't turn 18 fast enough, graduated from high school, I moved to Atlanta. I went to Morehouse, went to Atlanta, and, I started my spiritual journey in 2004 when I was 20, and was doing well with that. I mean, just like everyone else, I was going to church and all of that. Then towards probably 2008 or 9 or maybe 2007, I started to kind of distance myself from the church because I know some things that I didn't like. And I'm not getting off topic. All this is irrelevant. I ended up meet my wife in 2011. We got married, and it was after that when the spiritual journey really kicked into overdrive, which is honestly the sole purpose of marriage. It is to use another person, sometimes even the contentions that you have, to better yourself, right? Because when you're out and about, you're dealing with people at work or whatever, you go home, you get a break. But when you're out and about dealing with people at work, you come home, you got to also share your space with someone else who is not exactly like you, which creates a challenge, and you got to see differently. That's why it's good to get somebody who you share a lot in common, because you will have differences, but it makes it easier to come to understandings and grow together. So anyway, I did that. I got exactly what I needed, and a wife, and me and her are like peas in a pod. She's my favorite person in the world, and our spiritual journey has just grown exponentially. So let's go back to, like I said, 2 years ago. So together we've experienced all types of successes in business and stuff like that. I've had the most success being married, and like 2 years ago though, man, it seemed like I can't get a break. We're entering into more unpleasant catalysts now. It seemed like I just can't get a break. Even to now, like I've even tried to apply for jobs low key, and jobs that I wouldn't even have to ordinarily interview for, I just can't get. And it's none of my business ideas have been working. And it's just like, what is going on? Like, I've never struggled financially like this in my life. What's going on? And now I'm back staying with my mother, right? So it's like, how did I end up here? How did I end up here? Because once I turned 18, man, I mean, anybody tell you I avoided her like the plague, you know, but now I'm forced into being here. It seems like life is conspiring against me, just like blocking me from everything and forcing me to be here. And it is, right? So we're going to get to that now that this is my point. So why did I tell you that whole story? It is because, you know, like, why do I have the parent that I have? Why did my father not survive, but my mother did? And it wasn't like they were together and something happened. It's just, you know, if you're going to lose a parent, ideally, you know, ideally, people would want the better parent to end up with the child. You know what I'm saying? In my case, it was the other way around. The better parent died, and, you know, I ended up with what I have. So why is that? Why? It almost seems like God thinks this is funny, or this life or the universe is like playing a joke. And I think that's one of the things that makes people feel super crushed by unpleasant circumstances. But the good news is they don't have to last that long. So anyway, why would this happen? Why would an 8-year-old have to experience that? Why would, you know, why would I have to experience and learn that my father was actually rooting for me and proud of me and loved me at his funeral, like way too late? Why would I experience all the other abuse that I've gone through that there's just not enough time to mention all of it? And even now, to this day, why would I experience this stuff? Look here. If I never experienced those things at 8 years old, I would not be, I got a list. First of all, I would have never moved to Atlanta. I would have never went to Atlanta for school. I would have, you know, stayed here and been local, and because, you know, I get along with my parents, so why do that? I don't need to. I would just stay here, stay local, be successful, and build up as a family. I wouldn't be mindful of others' feelings. I would totally lack empathy, because that was not something I knew or understood or was taught at a young age, to consider others' feelings. It was the poor treatment that I received that helped me realize, like, yo, I hate the way that feels. I would never want to make somebody feel like that. So there's an example. And I'll give another example using my kids. So my daughter hates when my son splashes her with water. He thinks it's hilarious. But now she doesn't, obviously, right? But he thinks it's hilarious. So prior to his the first situation where she was splashed, she's not thinking about splashing or whether it's a bad thing or whether it's an unpleasant thing or anything. You know, if she was the only child, she might have seen some kids out one day and thought, maybe I'll splash them with some water. I think that'll be funny, right? Even though she doesn't like it, but she doesn't know she doesn't like it because someone's never done it to her. Now, after my son has done it to her, and she, you know, she now knows that I don't like the way this feels. I'm not going to do it to anyone else. Now, he still continuously does it to her, and it's like, well, why would that keep happening? Well, here's another thing for her to learn. She needs to start speaking up for herself and telling people, no, I don't like that. Stop. Now, when you say, well, what if it keeps on happening? Which it does. At this point, she needs to ask herself, okay, like, why do I keep experiencing this? What she should do is come to her mother and father and ask, you know what, Justice keeps splashing me even though I've asked him to stop. Why do I keep experiencing this thing? Why do I keep experiencing this unpleasant catalyst? Well, Dallas, it's because you do the same thing. It's not splashing, but when we ask you to do something, you don't listen, right? So there you go. When the way people treat us, when they treat us poorly, it is usually a mirror of something that we need to learn. It might not mean that you do exactly what they do, but there is a lesson there for you to learn, and you're going to keep experiencing it until you get it, right? So with me, I don't know why I'm here now, but I just know that it's something I need to learn. You know, there's a reason that we don't have to deal with my wife's family that much, because she's obviously overcome the issues she's had with them, but I haven't. And I know I haven't, because I know I still have a tremendous amount of anger for what I experienced even at 8 years old. And I understand the concept of it all, but you know, you have to sometimes understand the concept, especially if you're learning it at a later point in life. You still have to deal with the baggage that from the anger that you've held all the time. So when bad things happen to you, so let's say you experience some catalyst that you don't like, some unpleasant experience, you just need to analyze it. Like, okay, that hurt. What do I need to get from that? First of all, you need to ask yourself, do I treat other people like that? And if I do, then you correct it and you move on. There's no need to be angry at the person, because whether they meant to, whether it was, you know, intentional, whether they like you, whether it's an accident, is irrelevant. That is just their problem. You need to ask yourself, why did I experience it? And what can I do with myself? What can I do to use this to my advantage? Now, I just want to keep on. Like, if I wouldn't have experienced those things at a young age, I wouldn't have the wife that I have. I wouldn't have the kids that I have. I wouldn't have had the financial success that I have. I would probably just be here, single, with some baby mothers, and doing well in real estate, smelling good, and driving nice cars. And that's it. And I would have no fulfillment at all. And, you know, and definitely wouldn't be on this deep spiritual journey, you know. So I'm appreciative of all the things that I've gone through. It's not something to feel bad or sorry about. And when you learn, and I would say I used to think that there were two types of miracles, that there were pleasant miracles and that there were unpleasant miracles, because truly, for me to not succeed in business in 2 years or be able to get any work or anything like that is a miracle. It's a miracle trying to teach me something that's of more value than money. And so now I think that there's just one miracle. And when we experience the pleasant side of it, we're just seeing the end. A lot of the times we go through our unpleasant miracles unconsciously. I want to teach you guys how to go through it consciously. So let's say in this instance, I now understand, oh, I see what the callus is for, and I learned from it. Now I don't have to deal with it anymore. 100% of the time, when you learn a specific lesson, you don't deal with it anymore. You could take somebody that, I hate that I use this as an example, but a lot of people can relate. Women who are in abusive relationships, you know, if you at first get with a guy and he's verbally abusive, and you don't learn your lesson, you still like them bad boys, the next dude is going to punch you in the face. You still like bad boys after that, the next dude's going to choke you half to death, okay? The next dude after that is going to put you in the hospital until you learn your lesson. If you'd have learned your lesson with the first just verbally abusive dude, you'd have seen the signs, I'm not going to settle for that, you would never have to deal with the abuse again. The life lessons really are simple, but they ain't easy, if that makes sense. It's simple. Hey, when unpleasant things happen, it's just an opportunity for you to grow. Okay, but I tell you what, dealing with that pain is not that easy, especially since none of us have been trained in this way. We understand the physical aspect, that if I work out, and we all know it, no pain, no gain, but we only associate that with physical things. We don't associate it with spiritual or mental things. It's the same thing, or emotional things. It's the same thing. If you're hurt emotional, it is, again, just an opportunity. The difference is you ain't seek it out. It's just gonna happen randomly. You didn't say, all right, I'm going to the emotional gym today, and I'm going to let someone beat me up emotionally so I can use that as fuel to grow. You know, it just happens randomly. That's the difference. It catches you off guard. So, but the unpleasant emotional catalyst, or the unpleasant emotional experiences, are the same thing. We can use those to make ourselves emotionally stronger, mentally stronger, spiritually stronger. We can use them to our advantage. Okay, so hopefully you guys don't struggle with that anger. That anger will really kill you. You know, the anger will really kill you. I know my wife, and she wants to do a podcast on this later. My wife dealt with the same thing. I don't want to like give too much away. I'll let her talk about it, but she dealt with the same thing, and we worked together. We did a little, I wouldn't call it a meditative exercise, but you can meditate it away. But we did an exercise, and it was amazing. Got rid of her anger, and I'm trying to work on that myself. Ain't been easy though, but I'm gonna get there. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna link some cool videos here. I don't know where they're gonna be. One explaining why unintelligent people think they're so smart, and then I'm gonna actually link an article explaining how mothers destroy their sons. So I think you'll find the article very interesting, and I also think that you'll find the video not only hilarious, but 100% true. So that's it. I forgot to mention that before, and I'll catch you guys next time.